I'm Jim Peck. Welcome to MSU Today. It may look like we have a bit of an empty studio here, but in actuality, we have a very special guest who's joining us from far, far away, talking about something that's a little bit unusual for our program. Colin Marshall joins us from a hotel room. Colin, tell us where you are and what you're doing.
Right now, Jim, I'm actually in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I'm on tour filming some behind-the-scenes videos for the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne.
The Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, Michigan State University, Brazil. Does it get better than this? In your wildest dreams, is this what you expected?
I never, ever expected to be doing what I'm doing. I've recently narrowed my focus as a filmmaker to kind of live concert stuff, but I never thought that it would take off like this, and it really just kind of boiled down to a lucky phone call, an audition, and other than that, I kind of just found myself on this wild ride, on the crazy train, if you will.
I was waiting for that line, Colin. I knew that was going to be coming. You wouldn't be able to resist. So tell me a little bit about, what year are you? You're actually a student. I mean, you haven't bailed out. I mean, you're right in the middle of your studies, aren't you?
Right. I've only taken 3 semesters at Michigan State University. That would make me halfway through my sophomore year. And I got the phone call late during my fall semester of my sophomore year and just decided that this was an opportunity I had to take advantage of. So right now, my studies are on hold while I'm doing this.
Tell me a little bit about how you ended up with this position, because there's an MSU connection to that too, isn't there?
Yeah, I worked as a freshman a lot through MSU Telecasters with a friend of mine named Adam Sloan. He was a senior in the media arts department when I was a freshman. And we got along really, really well. We met through Telecasters, and we started doing a lot of projects together. A lot of live concerts, actually. Artists would come through to the MSU auditorium, and we would work together and produce some concert videos, and that's kind of how I fell in love with filming live shows and being in that environment. So he gained a liking to me, and after he graduated in May, he immediately moved to Los Angeles to find some work. He knew a few people out there, and he finally landed a show on Sharon Osbourne's show called The Talk. And so one day, Sharon was talking with a few people backstage, and she mentioned that Ozzy needed someone to film his tour, some kind of behind-the-scenes stuff. And Adam piped up and said, I know a guy.
Now, I know we're going to be looking at some pictures and some clips that you've taken when you've been down there. Are your parents freaking out? I saw sort of an interesting picture of them with, as you said, the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, when I initially told my parents, they didn't believe me at first, and I started going into more details, and they were slowly buying into it. But they've been really, really supportive the entire way, and they understand that this is kind of what it's about, and this is why you go to school. You go to school to get an education and to earn a job like this. And in their opinion, I was ready to do it, and they were behind me every step of the way. And the story behind that picture is actually kind of cool. That picture was taken in Moline, Illinois, and it was on my dad's birthday. My parents live in Minnesota, and they decided to drive down and see me on the concert, and so I got them some tickets. But what my dad didn't know is that I was going to take him behind the scenes, get him backstage so he could meet the band. And I had talked to Ozzy's assistant earlier that day and said, hey, if it's not too much trouble, do you think my parents could meet Ozzy, or at least get something signed for my dad? And he said, okay, yeah, I'll think about it. I'll talk to him. I'll see what he says. We'll see what kind of mood Ozzy's in before the show. Sometimes he doesn't want to be bothered. And but we were back there, and his name is Tony, and Tony came up and he just kind of grabbed us and he said, follow me. And it was pretty cool to be in the dressing room with Ozzy Osbourne and my parents talking to each other. It was just kind of a very surreal moment. I kind of had to I had to pinch myself to realize what was going on. So.
I can understand that would be surreal. And is it true that I heard that that's actually the only picture you can show from that experience, that so much happened afterwards, we can't show that on television?
Yes, there was all kinds of craziness. There was bats getting bitten. It was just way too much for the public viewing, so I can't.
And your father realizing a long-held dream of his.
Yeah, he was a Black Sabbath fan for a long time in college. That was he was really into that scene, and so for him to meet Ozzy, it was it was a real shock to him. He had no idea it was coming, and I think he really appreciated that. So it was cool for me to be able to do that for my dad, because he's been so supportive, and he's even fronted me some money to buy equipment for this, and for me it was just kind of a way to say thank you.
What are you actually doing? I mean, day to day, take us through your days on a regular day, take us through your days on a concert day when there's a gig going on.
Well, on a concert day, usually we start off early afternoon, around 2 o'clock is the call time where everybody meets in the hotel. And then we drive to the airport and board a private plane. So I'm on the plane with Ozzy, his assistant, our tour managers, and the band. And so I'm documenting every step of the way. My job is to create a behind-the-scenes video, a short YouTube clip for every concert that we do. So I'm filming whatever goes on the plane and the car rides. So after we get off the plane, we drive to the gig, and then there's usually a few hours before the show starts where I kind of walk out into the crowd and see what's going on, and maybe talk to a few fans. Here in South America, sometimes it's a little bit harder to find people who speak English, but enough fans will come up to me and ask me about what I'm doing, where I can usually just find someone who's ready to talk to me in English, and give them a few minutes to talk on camera about what it means for them to be at an Ozzy Osbourne concert, and how they've grown into being a fan, and so that usually provides a pretty good base for whatever video I put together for that show. And then during the concert itself, I'm all over the place. I'm running to the very top in the back of the arena. I'm on stage right behind Ozzy when he's singing. Everywhere you can think of, that's where I am with the camera. So I'm kind of a pest.
And people can go online and see this. What's the website so that we can put that up so folks can go visit?
You can go to www.ozzy.com, and there you'll find links to Oz TV. That's the series that I produce. Or if you want to go straight to YouTube, the username is Ozfest Video. That's OZZ Fest Video.
Colin, we talked about the website. You're also keeping a pretty robust blog on this, aren't you?
Yeah, I decided to do the blog for a couple reasons. One, I just really wanted to share what I'm doing with my friends and my family and stuff. I wanted to keep them updated on where I'm staying and what's going on with me and with the show, and kind of my perspective on this. So it's been really fun to keep up. I'll post some pictures and post the videos that I've done. And it's also a great way to explain everything once without having to tell the same story to each person who gets in contact with me. So in that regard, it kind of saves time if I need to edit rather than telling the same stories to 10 different people.
Why is this a good story to be telling? I mean, I know you're out on the road, you're having fun, but you talked about wanting to be a filmmaker, and I sense that there's part of this that is real to you, that's not just flying around the world and doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, I tend to look at what I'm doing in a couple different lights. One is kind of the very wide-eyed, I can't believe I'm doing this, wow, look at this hotel room I'm in, look at this private plane I'm riding in. That part's all very cool, but at the same time, it's also, a chance for me to really showcase myself as an upcoming filmmaker, and especially someone my age. This is very uncommon for someone as young as I am. You don't really find many 20-year-olds touring with heavy metal superstars, and it's a way for me to kind of prove myself in the industry. And if you will, this is my audition for my career. I have a lot of eyes looking at what I'm doing, and I kind of take this as this is a make or break thing. Either I make this happen and give it all it's worth, or I flunk or I tank out and nothing comes of it. So. My goal is to just have this lead to something else. One gig leads to the next. So, at the same, while it's easy to get wrapped up in the wonder and the excitement of traveling around the world, I still have to maintain that level of professionalism and be a professional, if you will, which is kind of a weird mindset to enter as a 20-year-old. I don't think most people my age are ready to call themselves a professional in their field. So but I feel comfortable doing it too. It's not intimidating to me, and for whatever reason, I don't know why it's not intimidating, but I'm thankful for that because it doesn't get in the way of my job.
You talked about being sort of, full of the wonder of this and how amazing this experience is. Have you gotten past that a little to what the actual work of this is? Because I know from doing things like this, it is a lot of work and it can be quite grueling.
It's an exceptional amount of work. It's the hardest I've ever pushed myself to this day in terms of doing any kind of video projects, because on the schedule of the tour, it will list a show day and then a day off, and then a show day and then a day off. And those days off are not time off for me because I'm editing whatever I shot the day before during the show. So, and a lot of these edits usually take, they can take anywhere between 6 to 10 hours. So sometimes, I'm even up late into the night, sometimes 3 or 4 in the morning, and then the next day is a show day and I have to be ready to go on my game, full of energy to get the shots that I need and run around the stadium, So it's definitely a grueling job, and to have to do that for 6 weeks in a row without a single day off is excruciating. I definitely get fatigued, but in those moments that I find that I'm kind of telling myself, man, this is really hard, and I don't know if I can push myself to keep doing it. I kind of just remind myself where I am, what I'm doing, and what this means as a bigger picture in terms of launching my career.
So from the time that you went on the road with Ozzy until the time you eventually get back, how long will that have been? How long will you have been out doing this by the time you come back?
Well, the tour is set up in legs. The tour itself is actually 18 months long, but it's not a continuous 18 months. It's like 3 to 6 weeks and then a 3-week break. That way the band and Ozzy, they don't get fatigued and worn out, and they can have a chance to recharge the batteries. So right now I'm on the second leg of my portion of the tour. I started in January, went for 6 weeks until the end of February, took a break in March, and then now I'm a little bit past a week back on the road, and this leg itself is between 3 and 4 weeks long. So I'm approaching 1/3 of the way through this leg.
What's it going to be like when you come back to campus and you're just one more student walking through East Lansing and trying to, how are you going to get back into that mindset? Because you talked about having to get into this mindset.
It's going to be a strange experience. I have not been back to campus since I've started this, so it'll be interesting to see how I cope with going back to the classroom and getting my traditional education. It's going to be strange, knowing that I've traveled the world producing videos as a professional, getting paid, and doing professional work in my field, and then here I am back in the classroom with my professors and my classmates learning the same material. I'm not sure if I'm going to go stir crazy or if it's going to be cool. I really do miss college though. I'm the youngest one on the tour by 7 years, so you don't really see, I don't get very much peer-to-peer interaction. I don't have like college-age friends, for instance, and I don't go out on the weekends and go to parties and things. So in that aspect, it's kind of lonely. I mean, I get along with everybody just great, but I do miss that close friendship with people my age. I miss being able to share common interests and things like that. So that aspect of coming back to college is what I'm really longing for.
Do you think, you talked about having gone through about 3 semesters here at Michigan State. Do you feel like being at Michigan State helped prepare you for this? And at the same time, what do you think you're going to bring back from this experience back to this place?
That's a really good question. I believe wholeheartedly that I would never be as prepared as I am right now, or I would never even be in this seat talking to you right now if I had not gone to Michigan State. A big thing I owe to my knowledge as a filmmaker has a lot to do with a group called MSU Telecasters. Telecasters is a student group, and they put together TV shows, web series. Everything is put together 100% by students. So it was my chance to be as hands-on as I wanted to be during my college semesters, which was nice because the starting level courses don't really give you a chance to play with the cameras and be creative. It's more about theory and learning the history. So that Telecasters was more of an outlet for me to kind of experiment and try new things and really get better as a filmer, as an editor, I learned a lot about lighting, sound, all the aspects that go into what I'm doing right now. I owe a lot of that to learning from my peers as a part of Telecasters, and that's really one of the major reasons that I even want to come back to school. I feel that I've learned a ton on my job. I've learned a ton doing what I'm doing right now, and I want to be able to bring that back and share that knowledge with my peers, because to me it's all about enabling each other. And when you have a group of people that want to accomplish the same goal, it's a lot more powerful than one person trying to achieve that goal. So for me, I want to empower other people to do what they want to do in terms of filmmaking, and whatever I can offer, I would love to be able to help out with that.
It's interesting, you mentioned coming back to campus, and you talked about sort of the social aspects of that. And I think some people don't realize that even if you're working in television, doing videos, being on tour with Ozzy Osbourne, there still is part of that where you're to a certain degree on your own, and it can be very kind of, to be blunt about it, can be really kind of geeky and nerdy. It's not necessarily this glamorous thing, or is it? Are you going to tell me that I'm wrong?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I feel like I'm the only one who understands what it truly takes to put together the final product. I'm not sure people know that, all the work that goes on in the editing room. I spend, like I said, between 6 to 10 hours in front of my computer. So yeah, in that aspect, it's kind of like I am alone. But at the same time, it's cool to have the creative control. My boss, who works in an office in California, pretty much, he put the ball in my court and he said, just go film whatever happens and put it together how you want. And if we like it, we'll throw it online. And they have yet to turn down a video. So for me, it's been phenomenal to be as creative as they've allowed me to be. It's just a great outlet. I'd rather be doing this than having to be told, what to point a camera at in a studio or something, for instance. To me, it's so fulfilling to be able to have that creative release.
As you said, what to point a camera at in the studio, our crew just left. So I think you're not making any friends back here.
I didn't mean anything against the.
So how you talk about doing these for every show. Why every show? Aren't these concerts basically the same? An audience is an audience, and the set is the set.
Right. You could look at it in the same light. A set is a set, but you have the things that are the variables are, for instance, the crowds, the stadiums. Sometimes people have crazy stories. I remember a video I did in Minneapolis, my hometown. There was a couple that traveled all the way from Russia. So, there's always something interesting going on. And, sometimes the band will play pranks on each other. So the variation really comes what's off stage. But, there's always a creative way to produce what happens during the show as well. Sometimes somebody will throw something on stage, and someone threw a flag on stage, and Ozzy wrapped himself in the flag. And, those are those unique moments that are special to each show. And our flight attendant on the plane comes to all the shows. She's a really cool woman. Her name's Crystal, and Ozzy, during one of his songs, he went off stage and pulled her on stage with him, and started dancing and stuff like that. So it was kind of, I could have just shown her dancing on stage and that was it, but I was like, how can I take this a step further? So I got her on camera. I got her to talk about what it was like to be on stage with Ozzy Osbourne, and how cool of a thing to happen to her. And
you talked about what an amazing experience this is, and I think anybody who hears about, somebody like you going out on the concert trail, out on the road with Ozzy Osbourne, is going to have all these images in their head and all these expectations. What are some of the things that have surprised you about this?
Well, Ozzy Osbourne's not a bumbling, stumbling idiot like TV makes him out to be. He's a really, really smart guy, really charismatic, and just a really caring dude as well. I have tons of respect for the guy. So that surprised me a lot. And, he's really not the Prince of Darkness. He's not the creator of heavy metal in his mind. He doesn't like to be seen as that. And, I didn't even know much about his music in general until I came on the tour. I was telling somebody the other day, through talking to Ozzy and the people who've worked with him for a long time and the band, I'm learning a lot about the history, through the people who made it. It's one thing to look it up on Wikipedia, and another thing to hear the stories from the actual band members. So that's been pretty cool. But as far as being surprised, I mean, nothing has been too out of the ordinary. It's a very well-oiled machine, this tour. Everything is run to the T. There are itineraries that are followed extremely closely, and without fail, everything gets done in the right way and at the right time. So it's all been very cool.
Awesome. Well, Colin Marshall, it's been really great talking with you. We wish you the best out on the road. We know you got months ahead of you. Hope you'll check back in with us, and we'll be looking for your updates.
Great, thanks. It was good. It was really good to be here. So let's try that one more time. Thanks, Jim. It was good to be here.
So you want us to edit that part?
Yeah, of course. Just please.
Okay. All right. Well, Colin Marshall, thanks much for being with us, and thank you for watching. Thanks for being here on MSU Today. I'm Jim Peck. We'll see you next time on MSU Today in Studio.